The following program is brought to you by TZ Productions, celebrating KPTS's nearly 50 years of community support in South Central Kansas. Great starts here on KPTS.
A big election is coming up. Have you decided who you'll vote for in the Kansas gubernatorial race? We're giving you an up-close and personal look at each of the three major candidates on the ballot. This time, our guest is Democratic candidate Laura Kelly. Senator Kelly has been serving in the Kansas State Legislature since 2005. She currently holds the position of Assistant Minority Leader, helping lead the Democratic caucus, which is outnumbered 3-1 in the Republican-dominated chamber. Her priority issues include improving public education and reducing health care costs. Kelly and her family have lived in Kansas since 1986. A New York City native, Kelly earned a bachelor's in psychology from Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois. She then earned a master's in therapeutic recreation at Indiana University. Senator Kelly is a longtime supporter of Kansas parks. She says they are critical to the health and well-being of Kansans. Kelly's husband is an MD in Topeka, specializing in sleep disorders. They have 2 daughters. Now, after 14 years as a state senator, Laura Kelly is in the fight of her life to rise to the position of Chief Executive of Kansas. We'll ask her about that as we get to know the person behind the politics. We're going one-on-one with gubernatorial candidate Laura Kelly right now. I'm Victor Hogstrom. Thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure to welcome Kansas gubernatorial candidate Laura Kelly to the program. Thanks for joining us.
I'm thrilled to be here.
You are running for governor after being you are also a senator, currently a senator. But the first question that everyone would ask you, I'm sure, is why you? What makes you the most uniquely qualified candidate for this position?
I'm uniquely qualified for this position, I think, because of my long history in the Senate, that I have the experience and the knowledge of the state, and the fact that we've been in a world of hurt for the last 8 years. I know where those problems are, and I know how to get them worked out, and I also have the relationships to get things done. I think that's going to be critical for the next governor, is to be able to work with our legislature. You know, you can't really get anything done sitting in the governor's office. You've got to be able to work with that legislature, and I've got the relationships with the folks in the legislature now that I will put to good use when I become governor.
So is this a job that you've been really preparing for throughout your entire life?
No, not at all. Actually, this was never on my bucket list. I had not planned.
What put it on your list?
Honestly, I was looking ahead to November and thought I cannot sit back and not put myself forward and let Kris Kobach become our governor. The last 8 years have been devastating for Kansas. You know, we've decimated our schools, we've dismantled our road structure, and we've not expanded Medicaid. We need to do all of those things, and my opponent has already made it very, very clear that he'll make a great U-turn and go back to the failed experiment of Sam Brownback and then go even further. So I just felt an imperative to get into this race and ensure that that doesn't happen and use my expertise to keep Kansas moving forward.
Now you have 2 opponents and you've mentioned one. Mm-hmm. Why the emphasis on one and not the other 2?
Well, I think it's pretty clear from the polling who my real opponent is, and so I want to focus on him and where he stands and how we are in contrast, very sharp contrast to one another.
Distinguish between you and Mr. Kobach, yourself and Mr. Kobach.
Well, I think it's clear. One, I want to keep Kansas moving forward. You know, last year when we overturned the Brownback tax experiment, we were able to get ourselves on the road to recovery. We've had 14, 15 months now of consistent job growth, revenue coming in over estimates. We were able to fund our schools almost adequately. We've got to go back and do a little more in January. But we're on the right path right now, and I want to make sure that we stay on that trajectory. And Kris Kobach has made it very, very clear that he wants to return to the days of the Brownback tax experiment.
What do you enjoy about politics, Senator?
Yeah, what I really enjoy the most is one, bringing groups of people together. You know, really, I'm a bit of a policy nerd. I like to get down in the weeds, so it's enjoyable for me to get folks together and really discuss issues in depth, and then try to come to consensus and collaboration and reach a middle on public policy that will help our state.
And what do you dislike?
Oh, I don't like bitter partisanship. I don't think that we have that much in Kansas. I think we've, over my 14 years in the Senate, I've been able to work with Republicans and move forward with good common sense policy. But I think if there's anything, it's the attacks, the personal attacks that people tend to take when they want something.
Now, you are a Democrat.
I am.
And if elected governor, you'll be working with a House of Republicans.
And a Senate of
and
Republicans.
a Senate of Republicans, too, that's
Exactly.
correct. How do you plan to get your goals accomplished as governor?
Well, the same way I always have, which is reaching across the aisle. That's sort of my trademark, is that since day one, I have worked very closely with Republicans to forge good public policy. I was a math major when I went to college, so I can add. And, the most Democrats we've ever had in the Senate have been 10. It takes 21 to pass a vote. So I immediately went across the aisle. And I think we're seeing that right now. I mean, if you look, just today, former Senator Nancy Kassebaum endorsed my race. Former Governor Bill Graves has. Many other prominent moderate Republicans have endorsed my campaign. I think that shows you how I've worked and how I'll work in the future.
And the former campaign chair of the current governor also endorsed you. Why are you getting all of these endorsements? What is it saying?
I think it's saying that what I want to accomplish is what they want done. They care about Kansas just like I do, and they understand that we really need to focus on education, focus on our infrastructure, focus on Medicaid expansion to really bring Kansas back and keep us on that road to recovery. And they also know that I'll work in a very bipartisan way. I mean, they've seen me do that. They understand and they trust that I will continue to work that way, that I won't be pushing ideological concepts. I will be just working to do what's in the best interest of Kansas kids and Kansas families.
What did you do before becoming a state senator?
A whole bunch of things. Just previous to becoming a state senator, I spent 18 years as the executive director of the Kansas Recreation and Park Association. So when I first moved to Kansas 32 years ago, I got that position, allowed me to travel all over the state. So I've been in just about every little town, every large town, from east to west, north to south. And so I did that for 18 years, really representing our communities and working with the agencies to make our communities the best they could be for our families and our kids. Prior to that, my work was really in the mental health world. I was a recreation therapist and then a hospital administrator in a psychiatric facility for children. And then prior to that, I worked at National Jewish Hospital for Respiratory and Immune Disease in Denver, Colorado, again as a recreation therapist.
Now, you majored psychology as your major in college, and you also majored therapeutic recreation. We know what psychology is. What is therapeutic recreation?
Well, it's really using recreation as a tool to help people. whether they're people with disabilities, people with mental health issues, or elderly, to create a more fulfilling life. We have folks who take care of the upper body, make sure that the hands and arms work. We have other therapists who work to make sure that the legs work. So recreation therapies really focus on the whole person and teaching them, working with them, so that when they are out of therapy, that they can add to their life and find fulfillment.
Now, what prompted that very first run for a political position? What came to mind? What happened? You were working, you were doing fine, you have a husband that is a medical doctor, and you have kids, grown kids. Mm-hmm. And then you decided 14 years ago to run for your first political office. And it was a big one, to become senator. Mm-hmm. What prompted that?
Well, in many ways, the same thing that's prompting me to run for governor, is that when we came here 32 years ago, part of the reason that we came was because of the stellar school system. And I wanted to make sure, at that time, I had a state senator who was voting against public schools. And I just couldn't sit back and let that happen. So I ran against him and beat him.
How did you end up in Kansas from New York?
A long way. I was raised in a military family, so actually by the time I was 6, I'd already lived on 3 continents, and I've lived all over the United States. So I met and married my husband when I was in Denver at National Jewish, and we had our first child. And what we wanted more than anything was to set down some roots so that we could raise our kids in the same environment, create a permanent home for them. And so we looked around, and we really did come to Kansas because it's got the stellar public schools, but we also had good job offers, and it has such a strong sense of community that I've never found in any other state. So that's why we're here, that's why we stayed, and we're very glad that we did.
So tell us about this wonderful family of yours.
I have my husband, Ted Doughty, who you've mentioned, who is a physician, pulmonologist by training, specializing primarily in sleep disorders now. I have 2 daughters, Kathleen, who is KU grad, now living in New York with an MBA and working for a large company there. And then my younger daughter, Molly, also KU. Went to KU Medical School and then out to Portland, Oregon for residency, and she continues to live there.
So what do they think about you running to be governor of the state of Kansas?
They are thrilled for me and thrilled for the state of Kansas. They agree with everybody else that what we really need to do is to stay on that road to recovery, and they think I can do it. My daughters don't live here, but they're extraordinarily proud of being Kansans. Each year, both of them host a Kansas Day party in their apartments. And so they keep close tabs on this, and they want Kansas. They want Kansas to be what it was. They want to be proud.
Now, all 3 of the gubernatorial candidates in this race, that includes you, live out in the northeastern part of the state. True?
True.
Yeah. Wichita is the largest city of Kansas, we all know that. What is your plan to specifically help Wichita thrive and grow?
First and foremost, pick Lynn Rogers to be my running mate. Lynn is not a native Wichitan, but he came here a long time ago, served 16 years on your school board, was also an agricultural banker, so knows Western Kansas particularly well. I actually just met with the chamber this morning, and there were folks from Wichita there. I will work with our business community. I think that's absolutely essential. We know that when our businesses thrive, our communities can thrive. And so I have every intention of working very closely with our business community here in Wichita, but all across the state to ensure that we work together and build on their assets and build on Kansas's assets.
Specifically, is there anything for Wichita that you have in mind?
Well, it would be pretty much the same thing. One, fund your schools so your kids have get a quality education and can become a productive part of your workforce. I also want to expand Medicaid. I think that's important to your hospitals down here. When the Affordable Care Act was passed, one of the problems that we're incurring now is that it was predicated on Medicaid expansion. And so what they call disproportionate share payments were reduced. So Via Christi is getting less money for uncompensated care. They need that Medicaid expansion to be able to fill that gap.
So we play a little game on this program, and I hope you're up to a little game that our producer has come up with. This one is called Either Or. All right? You tell me which you prefer and why. Spring or fall?
Fall.
Why?
I love the crisp air. I love the turning of the leaves. And I like that it's taking us into the holiday season and just before legislative session.
Sweet or salty?
Oh, salty.
Oh.
For sure. Anybody who knows me is that I will reject the ice cream for dessert, but don't put a bowl of nuts in front of me.
Music or sports?
Oh, that's a tough one. I like them both, but if you absolutely made me choose, I probably would choose sports. I was an athlete as a growing up. I particularly like to play sports.
What did you play?
Well, I played softball.
Oh.
I really wanted to play baseball, but I was a girl, and so that option wasn't open to me. But I played a lot of softball, and then I played tennis, and now I play golf.
Did you play for your universities?
I did not. I predate Title IX, and so those options were not available. But I did play high school basketball.
Okay. Let's continue. Comedy or drama?
Probably drama, and don't ask me why. I mean, I like very dry humor, but I like what drama tends to do, which is sort of peel the onion back on people and who they are and what they are, and I enjoy that. I like getting to know people.
Beef or chicken?
Oh, that's easy. And it's true, beef, absolutely.
Why beef?
I want to support the Kansas agriculture.
Okay.
Not to mention I love it. Medium rare.
Diamonds or gold?
Probably.
Your husband's watching, he would know exactly what to buy to you.
I really never thought about this. Not much into jewelry, but I suppose if I had to choose, it would be gold. I like clean, simple, like the lines.
Okay, let's talk about some political figures. Bill Clinton or Jimmy Carter?
Oh, Jimmy Carter, absolutely.
Ronald, well, why?
Oh, well, look at what he has done post-presidency. I mean, this man is a true humanitarian, still at the age of 93, building houses for other people. How can you not love him?
Mm-hmm. Ronald Reagan or George H.W. Bush?
H.W. Bush. I'd probably have to say George H.W. Just because I watched him more closely than I did Ronald Reagan. I mean, I like some of the things that Reagan did for our country. I think he brought the optimism back, and I think that was very important. But I liked the fact that George H.W. Bush had a real grasp on international affairs and could exercise that experience and knowledge.
Hillary Clinton or Michelle Obama?
Oh, no doubt. It has to be Michelle Obama.
Why is that?
I admire both of them. I think they both have done very well in their respective roles throughout their lifetime. I just like the person that Michelle Obama seems to be. I don't know her, so I can't tell you that. But I like the fact that she focuses on kids, that she focuses on health, that she focuses on other people consistently throughout the causes that she has advocated for. So I like that. And plus, she's raised two strong daughters. I like to think I have too.
Okay. Barbara Bush or Laura Bush?
Well, I've actually met Laura Bush, so I'd have to go there. I know Barbara Bush only from TV, but Laura Bush was actually a very close friend of a former state senator of mine, Marge Petty, in Topeka, and so I got to meet her when she came to dedicate our new library, and she is a warm, kind, smart, compassionate woman, and she too has raised two strong daughters.
So true. The final game, question of the game is country music or rock and roll?
Again, a tough one, but I'll tell you, may strike people a little odd. I really like country music, and I learned to love country music when I moved back to New York after graduate school. And I don't know,
all places in New York.
Maybe it was just the contrast between the city and the music, but I fell in love with it. I love some of the messages that you get in country music.
So tell us, when was the last time, Senator, you laughed?
Just now?
Oh, just more seriously.
Probably at the state fair. I had a wonderful time at the state fair. There was so much enthusiasm, energy in that arena, and I just had this huge group there on my behalf, and they were all buzzed up, and they kept me laughing.
What about the last time you seriously cried?
Oh, that would...
You're a psychologist, so I think that
well,
should also...
I'm a psychology major. I tell my
major.
friends I'm not a psychologist. Many who are. So, you know, I have to think about that one. I honestly can't remember the last time I cried. I mean, I can remember being sad, and that happens every time something tragic happens, like the death of the deputy, Parkland shooting, those kinds of things. But I honestly don't remember the last time that I cried.
So tell us about your faith and religious beliefs. Do you and your family attend the church, and what do you believe?
You know, I was born and raised a Catholic. And was a member of Assumption Church in Topeka, Kansas. I actually went to an all-girls Catholic school in New York for a couple of years. So that's my faith. I have a brother who's a priest in Richmond, Virginia. So it runs pretty deep in the family.
So you get a lot of blessings through him.
I hope so.
So if elected governor of Kansas, what is the first thing you would like to do to have accomplished for the state?
Well, there are so many things that need to be done. I think one of the very first things that I will do, though, will be to reinstate the executive order that Governor Sebelius put in place to restore rights for our LGBTQ community. Those were rescinded under Sam Brownback, and not only was that discriminatory, but I think it's been actions like that that have made Kansas very unattractive to businesses thinking about relocating. You know, we saw that happen in North Carolina when they passed a discriminatory bill. There were companies actually packed up ready to move who said, never mind, we're not coming. It's very difficult for companies to recruit and retain, particularly millennials and younger, when we are not seen as an open, welcoming state.
What has been the most defining moment of your life?
Probably the death of my father when I was in high school. I think it showed me, or probably made me more aware of how fragile life is and how important it is to invest in it and to work every day to make it as fulfilling as possible. But also that I really needed to be self-sufficient, that I needed to take my life under my own hands and get the education that I needed, get the work that I needed, and create a good life, not only for myself, but then for my children.
Senator, you are in a public television facility.
I am.
So it behooves me to ask this question, and I think you know what the question is going to be. What are your plans to increase support for public broadcasting in the state?
Well, one of the other things that I want to do as quickly as I can will be to reinstate the Kansas Arts Commission. You know, we are the only state in the country that does not have an arts commission. That was disbanded by Governor Brownback in the name of saving $750,000, when in reality what it did was cost the state $28 million. So, I mean, I think the arts, whether you're in a big city like Wichita or you're in a very rural community like Lucas, the arts are extraordinarily important to our communities and their culture, and I want to make sure that we get back to doing that. I would suggest the same thing about public broadcasting, whether we're talking radio or television. I've always been a supporter of both, and I will continue to be.
That's good to hear. Describe the perfect governor for the state of Kansas.
Laura Kelly.
Okay.
And I say that facetiously, but the truth of the matter is, I think I really am exactly what Kansas needs right now. You know, a strong, steady, experienced governor who can get to work on day one, work with others to move our state forward.
What about the role of that governor, this perfect governor? What is that role?
Well, the role of the governor is obviously to manage the entire state operation, and I will do that by bringing in good people. You know, I plan to fill my cabinet positions with people, regardless of party, who are experienced and who know what it is they need to do and have the tools to really fix the issues that we have so deeply rooted in our agencies. So that's one of the things that I will be doing. But I also need to become the chief cheerleader and ambassador for our state. You know, we have suffered from a perception of not being particularly open for business, and I want to make sure that we get the message out that we are.
So my final question, Senator, if you were elected governor, when you've completed your term, whether it's 1 or 2 terms, what would you like that final chapter of your governorship to read?
Well, you know, Victor, I'm really running to be the education governor. You know, and that's the mark I want to leave on the state. When I leave office, I want us to be back to having, you know, the best schools in the nation. I want us to have expanded early childhood opportunities so that we can get to kids early and ensure their path to success. And I want to make sure that we have our career and tech ed programs funded at a level and working in concert with our business community so that they can provide the nimble workforce that we're going to need for the future, and then obviously our Regents universities.
Senator Laura Kelly, running for governor for the state of Kansas. Thank you for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Good luck in the race.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for watching this special edition of One on One. I'm Victor Hogstrom. Next week, independent candidate Greg Allman will be here. Hope to see you then.
The preceding program was brought to you by TZ Productions, supporting KPTS and the communities it serves in South Central Kansas. Great starts here on KPTS.
Call KPTS to receive a DVD copy of this program for a $40 donation. You can also send a check or money order along with the program name, date, and time to the address on your screen. And you will receive a 1-year KPTS membership.